Hi there, I'm Sheethal and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll be seeing how to get back into a job or a career after a longish kind of career break. I am someone who had to take a 3-year break in my career after my first baby was born. So I very well know what are the pains and the difficulties of getting back into the 9 to 5 grind after you've been away from it for so long. I hope this video will help you figure out some ways in which to make this transition easier for you. I'll not only be sharing what worked for me, I'll also be sharing some of those things I wish I had done when I was at that stage so that it would have been easier for me. I hope this really helps you. If you like this video, don't forget to click on that like button and do subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And don't forget, please click on that bell button right next to the subscribe channel. Only if you do that, you'll come to know when I put in my next video. So that's the first tip for you. Take the plunge. I know it's not easy. I know that a certain inertia kind of sets in where, it's a very daunting task. Suddenly, I was asked to make a CV after a break, a 3-year break, mind you, where I have not had any touch with my previous job. And I am supposed to now making this glowing CV, which people are supposed to look at and actually call me for an interview. But the first and foremost hurdle was myself and my lack of confidence and a lack of knowledge as to how to put across these things in a piece of paper, which cannot go beyond 1 page or 2 pages at the max. But I beg you, please take the plunge. The more you keep it for later, the more difficult it's going to be for you. So how did I work my way around it? That's going to be my second tip. First, apply for those jobs that you are not interested in. Like what I did was that I would figure out those jobs which are obviously it still has to be related to your job and what you want to do, because you're going to use this interview as a stepping stone. But I used to pick those things which are like too far for me. So I would anyway not be able to go there and do it. What this helped me in was that it took away a lot of pressure as to my performance pressure, you could say, because I was facing an interview board for the first time after so many years, and that too after a break. I obviously would have issues when I did my first interview. It was a given that I would have confidence issues. It was a given that I would not have answers to half the things they were asking, more than half probably. So I did not want it to be with an interview board and a job that I was really looking forward to. Another advantage for this was that the first CV or the resume posting and sending also became much easier, because anyway I was not really looking at getting that job. I was just using this as a training ground, so to speak. So it was okay even if my CV was not world class material, even if my CV had issues, it was fine. If they call me, well and good. If they don't, I'm still not losing anything, because anyway I'm not going to go for that job, right? This also helped me in other ways from a prep point of view. So the interview board over there was anyway going to ask me relevant questions only, because it was to do with the kind of job that I wanted. Plus, they were also asking me questions about my career break. And this was very, very important for me to get a sense of what was working and what wasn't. So I obviously had come prepared with some answers to the questions, not questions. I had come prepared with the answers. But I had to see how it was being received. So this gave me an option to gauge their reactions and accordingly tweak my answers or add to it. It also helped me figure out what were the areas in which I need more prep, I need more research, and I could accordingly prepare myself to go and face the next one. So this helped me. In each interview, I could see that every interview was helping me perform better and better and better. And not just that, that initial hesitation that you would have after such a long period, and when you're putting across the answers, some of them wouldn't sound confident, some of them would sound apologetic, some of them would sound a little belligerent. All of that would get tamed down by the time you graduated a few interviews and got to the stage where you wanted to go in for the actual interviews that you want to attend. Whether it is finding a good nanny or whether it is finding a good daycare for your child, get that out of your way even before you start going for your interviews. So get everything in place. Not just find a daycare, start sending your child there. Let her or him go through all that adjustment period. Let them settle down over there. Let them start to be happy there. The great advantage of this is that once you know that your child is safe and happy somewhere, you can do much better in your interview, believe. Many times, interviews will not be set up at times that are really convenient for you, based on your childcare and on all those factors. Or it might be in really far away places. So I really struggled with that part of it. I stay in Bangalore, and Bangalore, getting from one place to the other on a good day itself will take you 2 hours. So factor in all the traffic jams and all that. Even an interview that is set up in any of these IT parks, I used to really struggle to get to them and get back in time for my child, which is very difficult. So that's why I said, figure out sustainable childcare and daycare options that you can go ahead with even after you've landed a job. So that is how you should be looking at it. And you should have enrolled your child into that kind of a program where they'll be taken care of the entire day, not just for an hour or two, because that will play havoc with your interview time schedules. Figure out some sustainable pickup and drop options for your child. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because, I made the mistake of being the only person who's responsible for picking up my child and dropping her to school and then to daycare and all that. Now, the big problem with this was that I had to be available when her time was up. There was no other option, no school bus, no alternative. And I picked a daycare and a school which is so far away from where my husband works that I can't call on him and in an emergency and say, okay, I'm stuck in this interview over here. Can you please go and pick up the baby? That was a big issue. And there were a couple of interviews where I remember I was so anxious throughout. I was clearing the interview. I was clearing it from one round to the other round to the other round. So the time became way much more than what I had anticipated for. And there was no option of going and picking up my kid. I started getting on such tender hooks that by then it was like very visible on my face. And the interviewer actually asked me what happened. And I said, okay, you guys are stacking up all the interviews on the same day. And I really can't be here. I have to go and pick up my child. That interviewer turned out to be a very understanding person. They actually rescheduled the rest of my interviews for the next day. But you get what I'm saying. This is a huge issue, and your performance is going to be really hit if this is how you handle it. So please figure out some options where your husband or another family member or a close friend can go and pick up your child instead of you in case an emergency is there. Probably the first thing you should do, even before you do any of the things that I said earlier, is try and figure out what exactly is the career you want to get back to. Is it the same one that you dropped when you went on your break, or is it something new? I remember I had a phase where, though I loved being a business analyst, which was a career I had done before my break, I knew that the job description of a BA had certain elements that I wouldn't be able to do right now in that phase of my life. I had a very, very young child who was like hardly 2 to 3. And a BA typically has to travel quite a bit, sometimes for a long period, to different countries, to US, UK. Now, earlier that was not a problem. That is part of a job description, sorry, and I used to do it. But now the problem was that I couldn't do it with a baby around. So I started looking at other options for myself instead of a BA. So I forayed into a lot of things. I explored a lot of careers. To this day, I'm really, really happy and also proud of myself that I did that, because somewhere or the other in life, you will always have this thing that, am I in the right path? Am I in the right career? Is there something better for me? Especially if you're someone with varied interests, that will always be there. So I did a bit of anchoring. I did freelance voiceovers. I did a bit of acting jig for a corporate ad. I did a bit of, not just a bit, I also did marketing for my dad's family business. I wanted to set it up in Bangalore for him. So did quite a bit of work for him in that regard. That was actually one gig that really helped me in my interviews once I joined back later, because I could sell those skills that I had got to my potential employers. Whenever they would talk about the long break that I had taken, I would always point them to all this other stuff that I had done. The advantage that I saw with that was that they were also impressed. I was still trying to figure out other things. I was still having contact with other people. I was still using and building skills. This showed that I'm very adaptable, that I am ready to learn, that I'm someone who can be thrown into a new situation and I would try to, get into it and try it out. I'm not someone who's scared from trying new things. So, if you have ever wondered whether you want to do something else, this is your best time to do it. Try out a few options, see if you want to get into any of those passions of yours, make it into a career or not. Or at the end of all of that soul searching, you might just figure out, just like I did, that I really love being a BA and get back to it. So I ultimately went back to my original work. But many of these other things that I had done became my hobbies or weekend jobs, you could say. I still freelance as a voiceover artist. I still do some bit of anchoring and other stuff. So there are a lot of things that you can still, carry along with you. But only thing is you might not want to make it your career. So until I see you again in the next video, stay safe.